Hello, people. Welcome back to another video by your good friend Chad Marco, the Big Anarchy. Make sure you guys smash that like button and let's talk, baby. So I put out a video called "Why the Racism on 4chan Does Not Bother Me," and it was actually a pretty popular video. We got a lot of feedback there, and so I was like, man, I'm gonna have to respond to the comments on this video separately because we have some great comments there, and I just kind of wanted to milk this cow for all it's worth. But seriously, let's get into it. So I Woe Chuck Up says, I think some people just need to get that aggression and darkness out somewhere. Like, they may not really hate women, but maybe they've had some frustrating encounters. Or the same with people of other races or whatever. Or maybe they're just in an environment every day where they have to be super clean, family friendly, and they need to vent. We've all done that, I think. Said, thought horrible things we don't really mean. I'm sure some people on there really believe it, but I bet a lot of those 4chan posts are just people getting all that out, screaming into the void, so to speak. I think there's something healthy and cathartic about that to an extent, at least. And I agree. You know, it's funny. I had, I'm not gonna be too specific, but I've been posting on 4chan, and I was sort of, to put it simply, expressing my dislike at a particular content creator. And I remember, like, if I think back to it, the language I was using was like, if I made a video right now, I wouldn't be that that explicit. I think 4chan just kind of naturally brings that out of you, basically, right? Where when you would normally just express disliking somebody on 4chan, when you talk about it, you might go the extra mile and actually start insulting and calling them names and stuff like that. I think it's just sort of the nature of the beast when you're on 4chan, right? It can cause people to exaggerate when they're expressing themselves just because of how freely you are able to express yourself there. But again, it's an exaggeration that's stemming from something that's already there. And like you said, you know, some of those guys, they saying it and they believe it. And oh crap. So Zerg 6001 says, because it's a clear joke and nobody is genuinely a white supremacist. Is he joking? Dude, come on now. There is no way that would be the case. There are definitely people there saying those things, and they mean exactly what they say. Now, how much of a really, it doesn't even have to be like a white supremacist. You know, when you're talking about racism aimed against blacks in particular, trust me, the Asians, they're in on it. The Indians, the blacks. So I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's a white supremacist issue, but I'm just saying, bro, I've been on the internet long enough and I've been on 4chan long enough to know you can't know all the time, but for sure, sometimes you just know like that he's not joking. This guy is not joking. He really means exactly what he's saying. He's expressing what he believes there. Unless we're all just going to buy into the idea that everybody goes to 4chan and just lies about everything, right? Which I know just isn't the case. And so Max the Awesome 4255 says, isn't it odd that as our culture has become more against racism, slurs, etc., that all the tensions have gotten worse? I think this probably has something to do with it. Absolutely. You know, I know I made the video, you know, talking down on, you know, motherfuckers being racist and and all that. And certainly a large extent of that is absolutely not cool. But at the same time, you know, throughout the video, I never said, oh, take 4chan down. I hate 4chan. You know, I just accept it as a part of 4chan. I think it's it's one of the necessary evils of 4chan. I would really, honestly, I would be heartbroken if 4chan got taken off the internet, because it's one of the few places left where you can really openly and honestly express yourself without getting instantly banned or getting your post deleted or something like that. And like I mentioned, like when I go to Reddit, I know what Reddit is. I go to Reddit knowing that I gotta sort of tone down certain things, right? Going from 4chan to Reddit, and I still get in trouble. You know, like, just for example, I made a thread on the Resident Evil subreddit about how I believe Capcom purposefully sabotaged Resident Evil 3 remake. We're not even talking like some crazy racist conspiracy misogyny shit. And that post got deleted. That's the type of shit you got to deal with on Reddit. So, dude, with everything I said about 4chan and race, again, one, it don't really bother me. But two, man, I just feel like 4chan, that aspect of 4chan, I'll take that. I will take that if it means that we have a space where people can have those extremes, but also everything in between that is, you know, a reasonable level of discussion and debate that we can't have on Reddit, that we can't have on, well, old Twitter, X kind of different, but YouTube and whatnot. We definitely have to protect and ensure that spaces like 4chan continue to, you know, survive. Cause, oh man, like, honestly, real shit, bro. If 4chan went down, I would feel bad. I would really feel bad. So not Ux No Bucks, not Ux No Bucks says white supremacists on poll are more racially diverse than left-wing journalists. And you know, it's funny, I go to poll oftentimes just to see what's kind of going on in the world, because, you know, they'll be talking about different things that I might not catch on the news board, and I don't really go to like mainstream news outlets all the time. So sometimes I just want to know what's going on real quick. I just go to poll real quick. So, but I've noticed that too, is that it's kind of one of the inside jokes on poll is that you have a lot of like Indians and Hispanics LARPing as white guys and talking like they're white and talking against blacks and stuff like that. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. That's why I say it's not just like a whole white supremacist thing. Like, you have a lot of different races partaking in, like, because as a black man, I'm talking about, you know, what's said about my race. Everybody has a hand in it. The Asians, the Hispanics. I know. So TC69420 says, it's fun to be nobody and say all the dumb shit you want to the other nobodies. If only more people understood that feel. Look, I get it. It's like I said, I partake in a bit of light trolling as well. It's just like with me, I don't know. I just have too much of a consciousness to where even when I make threads and I troll, I tend to just keep it light. And like, I don't go out of my way to sit on 4chan and try to make somebody feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I draw the line. Like, I'll make a thread knowing it'll be controversial and shit like that. Oh, ADV is the best place. So many normies. But even then, when I do it, I usually do it. And I think I mentioned this in the video, like when I made the thread about believing that all men should get paternity tests, I made that knowing that I would cause a ruckus on the ADV board, right? But at the same time, I wasn't like just saying something that I didn't believe in. I didn't say something that I wouldn't also talk about, you know, in real life or on my YouTube channel. But that's how I troll. That's my method of trolling, you know. Or I'll make a thread like, I'm pro porn. Again, I got the pro porn video. That's how I tend to do it. I'll make shit knowing I'm about to start some shit. But I can't just like sit and really like, okay, I gotta make somebody feel bad. Like I really just want to I ain't got the heart for it, but I get the appeal because I indulge in shit, plenty of shit posting, right? So Google a okay. I don't use 4chan, but I don't use 4chan, but I do use the internet anonymously, and I've been called right wing a lot on and off the internet. The only difference is that on the internet I cut straight to the point. In real life, if I care enough to have a real conversation about something important with you, we will end up agreeing. I also feel like you're getting memes mixed up with actual arguments. Like state mandated girlfriends is such a multi-layered meme. If anybody wants to enslave women, that's a communist thing. And I'm more about being an American instead of left wing or right wing. Now, I get that the state mandated girl, that's one of the extreme meme tier things. But like I said, when we exaggerate stemming from the things that we believe in, the state mandated girlfriends is usually something that stems from misogyny. It's usually something that stems from being anti-feminist. It's usually something that stems from guys who genuinely believe that giving women rights is a sign of the downfall of the West. Right? It's I get it. That's the fun extreme end of me. I got it. I'm just saying that when you see stuff like that, is usually connected to something that is less extreme, but something that people actually believe in. It's just that, again, the way 4chan operates and the whole meme nature of it, it allows and encourages people to exaggerate things like that because it's allowed and it's funny and it's fun. I get it. But I'm telling you, oftentimes it's just an exaggeration of what people already believe in to a certain extent. And so Russian PC bot 6408 says 4chan divided by race, united by racism. Just about everyone on 4chan gets along as long as you can take a joke and dish it back. If you can take it, you can ride on 4chan, bro. That's the main thing. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there used to be that site, Omegle, where you could connect with random people. And I remember I was using the R9K tag. No. What was I doing? Because this wasn't somebody from 4chan. I don't know how, but I ended up connecting with a black girl who was familiar with 4chan, but she never used it. And I remember, like, the way she talked about 4chan was like, she just couldn't go there. She talked about it like if she went to 4chan, it would be a traumatic experience or something like that. And I remember having this conversation with her, and I couldn't believe how sensitive she was, right? I kind of get it now because this was like years ago when I was stupid. So I didn't get that everybody wasn't like me. but like she was like I can't go to 4chan. Why do you go to 4chan? And I didn't get it then. But yeah, 4chan is a place where if you can, you just gotta have thick skin. That's just what it comes down to. You gotta have thick skin. You gotta have an eye for trolling and bait so that you're not always baited into, getting wrapped up in But look, I'll say this too. This is one thing I will say. And because somebody asked me to do a video about like comparing 4chan to Reddit. And I'm going to do that. But I'm going to make a quick point here, right? I got to defend this about Reddit compared to 4chan. The cool thing about Reddit is that you can actually it's easier to have serious discussions about topics. Now, certain topics you're just not going to be able to have on Reddit. I got you. But you can talk about certain things and at least know that you're having a real discussion and debate with somebody who's not like trolling and is just trying to fuck with you. That's one thing that I always liked about Reddit, was that you feel better about really digging deep into your debate bag because you really feel like, okay, I can go look at this person's post history and okay, this is a real person and they got their social media links in their bio. This is okay. I'm having a real versus, guys go on 4chan and post shit just to get a rise out of you. That's one thing I gotta give to Reddit over 4chan. You can have real discussions and debates on 4chan, but you never know whether or not that person is just trying to dig at you or just baiting you. And I think that's just something that's less prevalent over on Reddit, because they gonna check your profile. They gonna check to see if you just made that account today. If you don't have a certain amount of time on Reddit and post count and all that, people not gonna take you seriously. So Sir Ventez 98 says, iFunny is similar to that 4chan in that area. And then Indio Mustafa 2047 says, well, iFunny is the only mainstream site that allows edgy comedy anymore. LOL, it's really funny because iFunny has the same reputation as 4chan and normies, even though 4chan is far worse, beyond racism, LOL. And then the Mania 104 says iFunny is corny. And then Indio says that doesn't mean anything. Now, I don't know what iFunny is. Is it similar to 9gag? I remember people were always talking about like 9gag in comparison to 4chan. But like I said, it's kind of sad because think about if 4chan wasn't here. What are we all gonna fall back on? Excuse me, we all gonna fall back to iFunny? Like, do we just migrate? Like, where do we go? You know, and I think, like, you know, a conversation like this is a good example of why we need 4chan. If iFunny is the alternative, then damn, we need to keep 4chan alive. And so Respawn Icon says, they definitely believe it, but there's a double standard as to what's acceptable public discourse. You can put your name and face to ideas that conform to the establishment without consequence. But if you're a real dissident, they will ruin your life or kill you. That's the reality. You as a black man can basically say what you want online with your face, and the authority won't prosecute you unless you go the Kanye route. But that's another video. The Kanye route. What is he talking about? Small hat? No. Come on. I love everybody. Don't come after me, please. No, but I get exactly what he's saying. But he makes a good point. I definitely have an advantage as a black man because technically I'm one of the protected groups as a black person. I gotta give him that. I have a little bit of extra protection. You know, I can talk about certain things, and now don't get me wrong, even as black men, we get criticism. Like when I talk about the black community and things like that, we got to worry about being called coons and Uncle Toms, but that's not nearly as big of a deal as being a white person accused of being a racist or something like that. Look at like Donald Trump. Perfect example. Like that's one of the main attacks people try to leverage against him. Oh, he's a racist. He hates the Mexicans. He hates the blacks. Even though there's no real evidence of him being a racist, you know, but it's like he's in a position where, for instance, if he talks about illegal immigration, which again, very reasonable to be against illegal immigration and whatnot, but he talks about it and then people can say, oh, well, you must be racist, right? But as a black person, if I talk about it, I'm much less likely to deal with that kind of criticism. People are much less likely to accuse me of being a racist if I say that I'm against illegal immigration, or I talk about closing the borders, or, you know, using force or putting up walls and whatnot. I'm probably not going to get hit with the racism thing as a black guy. White people are definitely more vulnerable to certain attacks. Just the same way, you know, heterosexual people are going to be more vulnerable to attacks if they criticize or talk about the LGBT community. Like if you talk about the STD rates and things like that. Well, if you happen to be heterosexual and talk about it, then you might get hit with the homophobia thing, you know. But if you are bi or gay and you talk about it, then people, oh, he's just he's just being informative. So, you know, that's definitely a real thing where depending on, you know, race, sexuality and things like that, that can add a layer of protection add a layer of protection against attacks that will allow you to more openly talk about these things. And okay, so Bill Batson 7598 says, in response to that, I think that's something the people in power try to make us believe. But being black doesn't actually protect people to say whatever they want. They still have to say the things the power structure wants. The power structure just wants them to say more transgressive things to move the conversation in a particular direction. Any black person who doesn't transgress in the way the power structure wants them to transgress still gets attacked. Larry Elder was called the black face of white supremacy for being a black man who disagreed with the power structure. Also a good point. We can't just say anything. And just like what was his name? Bill Batson said, you know, when he talked about Kanye, that's a good example of a black man taking on the wrong group, right? And getting in trouble for it. So, you know, it adds a layer of protection in certain situations, but it's not the keys to just go and say whatever you want either, you know, especially when it comes to, you know, like I'm scared, right? Look, I'll say it, the Jewish community. You know, like even black people can't get away with talking about the Jewish community, and you know that tells you something. And then this guy responds. He says, exactly, being a minority while having a controversial opinion is still a power struggle. You have to deal with grifters tokenizing your identity for their cause, left and right, and people in your community calling you a traitor and saying you hate yourself all the time. Just like I mentioned, Uncle Tom, the whole Uncle Tom thing, race traitor, like he said, and you know, and tokenizing too, right? Like, oh, we got this black guy to talk against blacks, kind of like with Tommy Sotomayor. I always have a hard time pronouncing his last name. But, you know, he's known for being very, very hard on the black community, like vicious. And I've noticed he doesn't get posted on 4chan as much these days, but I remember a few years back, I noticed how some people would like use him as like, look at this black man putting down the black community. Look at this black man agreeing with what I'm saying as a white man, like, and look, fair play. But that's exactly what he's talking about, though. They tokenizing your identity for their. I'm a white man who has these views that might be perceived as being racist. Let me get a black guy to say it for me, or let me find a black guy who's saying it, and then I can kind of use that as my argument. Fair play. I noticed that too with I forgot his last name, but I'm sure you guys remember there was the gay guy, Milo Yiannopoulos. I forgot, but he was similar in that he was like the right wing's gay grenade guy. Like he's the gay guy that we can use to say controversial things about the gay community. We can't say it without being called homophobes. But if he says it, you can't call him a homophobe. So again, very interesting how they do that. You know, they'll take someone and kind of use them as a mouthpiece or a proxy to express ideas that they themselves can't really express without getting attacked. And then ZapZale24 says, 4chan racism I view as more like a filter that removes normies. Once you overcome that threshold, it's actually a pretty chill sight on the other end. Yeah, you get the occasional degenerate here and there, but if you ignore them and give them no attention, it's perfectly fine. And you know, I'll say this too. It's my own fault because you got some cool boards that are like not as war and tribal, like, you know, like constant fighting. Like you go to the animal board, for instance. Now, of course, you got any board has disagreements and debates, but you go to like the animal board, which I tend to slide into every now and then, and it's a relatively peaceful board. where people just make threads about their favorite animals. Like, you know, the biggest debates you'll see on Ann would be like the pit bull threads. And even then, 90% of the people are just shitting on pit bulls anyway. And then, you know, you might have somebody who in the WebM thread, they'll say, stop posting boring bird WebMs and shit. Like, that's the type of fighting you see on the animal board. Like, motherfuckers mad because you posted too many bird videos. But you really do have cooler communities within 4chan. I tend to be more attracted to like the most toxic. I'm going to GIF, Poe, R9K. I don't fuck with B no more. B just too wild, even for me. But, you know, like I'm going to the worst places. So I need to really like switch up. You know, V. Oh my God, V. But again, cool boards like VR, like video game retro, much more chill and slower pace compared to like V. You know, so you got some cool spaces there. You know, you just got to know where to go too. But yeah, some of those boards, straight war. Just you go there, it's just nasty. Motherfuckers just trolling all day, nonstop. Man, motherfucker just hateful and vindictive over there. And so Grouchy Potato Wolfpack is back. I'm British. He says, I'm British. First thing we do when we meet someone of a different background is take the piss out of each other over it. You meet a Scot, you joke about Glencoe. Meet a Welsh, call him a sheep shagger in the most creative way you can. And they'll say something just as horrendous back, and you both laugh. Is it racist? Maybe, but it hurts nobody. Oh, excuse me, because nobody is being serious. And then KKEC1 says, where I'm from, we do this even on a city-to-town basis, make jokes over accents, customs, things like that. And then the funny part, though, is this guy, Osendayo, he says, no, the guy under him, he says, but it's your own people, really, British and British. Why not do that with an African immigrant? And look, I get what Grouchy Potato is saying. Look, boys will be boys. It's basically called ball busting. We bust each other's balls about certain things. I got you. And that's definitely some real shit. But I think on the other hand, the Voyager made a good point. You know, do you have that same energy with an African immigrant? Are you going to go to an African immigrant and be like, hey, mate? You know, I'm not even going to go there. But again, I got it. We're men. We bust each other's balls. That's some real shit. And then amongst men, you know, in fact, I'll give you a good example. I was at the gym and there were these three guys in there. And they were in there like working out and they were just getting it in. And they were just talking shit to each other like, keep going, bitch. Keep going, bitch. Pussy. Yeah, like basically trying to force each other to kill each other and to kill themselves in the gym, just pumping and shit. And, you know, when I was looking at it, because really, me and my homies, we never really did shit like that. You know, that's not our thing. But when I saw it, I understood it. I was like, oh, these guys, they're just good friends. To be able to just sit there and call each other bitches and shit while they're working out, you know, I could tell that they were just getting each other pumped up, right? It was like, keep going, bitch. Like, making him not want to stop, making him not want to, you know, to get those extra 3 or 4 or 5 reps in. So I understood what was going on. I knew it wasn't anything mean-spirited between them. That's just how they communicate. So it's definitely a real thing where amongst men, and even sometimes with girlfriends, you know, I've seen girls be like, hey, bitch, and all that. You know, sometimes we just communicate and we joking each other for fun and whatnot. And it's kind of like an inside joke. But again, you know, how far do you really take that? Because they weren't talking like that to me in the gym when they were talking to me, because they didn't know me like that. And I wouldn't have said that to them because I didn't know them like that. You know, so it's like, it's kind of, that's where that's kind of where you got to figure out where the line is drawn. Do you know somebody well enough to talk to them a certain way? And so Aladdin Zwaypunk Noel says, I feel like casual racism is a big part of internet shitposting. I'd rather have people comment and post the most insane bullshit on the platform instead of every piece of content slowly turning into the same advertisable slop that just tries to keep your attention for as long as possible. And I agree, man. I think it's kind of like with YouTube. I kind of have a hard time censoring myself because I'm so free and expressive in how I want to communicate and get my ideas across. And one thing I hate about YouTube, and I know that a lot of it is tied in with how we make our money and with advertisements and whatnot, but there's really I think there's a sad element to it, because when I look at different content creators who have to conform to like the norms of this platform and what you can and cannot say. And it's becoming more and more extreme every year. It's not even just a case of, oh, you can't say the F word or you can't say shit or this or that. I see people, it's kind of like when you see guys who say 304 instead of just saying whore or hoe. When you see guys who say, oh, he deleted himself. That's what Coach Greg Adams would say when somebody has committed suicide. Instead of just saying, oh, he committed suicide. You know, the way we communicate with each other and the language we can use is becoming more and more constrained and limited, you know, as people have to use these platforms that kind of really enforce that. If you want to thrive, you know, like a lot of people have speculated that my channel is shadow banned because I've never really censored or moderated myself like that. I've always kind of said what I wanted to. And yeah, again, that's just kind of one of the more unfortunate aspects of, you know, these social media sites becoming more and more popular. And as a result, they begin to become watered down because people feel like they have to limit themselves in how they express what they feel and what they think, even down to, again, language that shouldn't even be considered offensive. Like something like saying death or died or suicide. Like I see content creators avoiding saying those words because they don't want to mess up their advertisement money, or they don't want to mess up their video getting seen more and being favored by the algorithm. Really unfortunate. And Zerg 6001 says this council culture, political correctness, and DEI have ruined everything from TV and movies to video games and YouTube, especially YouTube. People even tried to cancel Internet Historian for being a racist. Now everyone just wants ad money. I was just talking about it, dude. I'm telling you, it's again, man. It's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate, and I feel like we're losing as we gain, because as we conform in order to succeed and thrive on these platforms, what's really happening? If you really think about it, they're basically paying us to adjust how we express ourselves and communicate with each other. Now, granted, at this point, you know, we're still able to express the gist of our ideas, but still, that's not going to help when it comes to the algorithm. That's not going to help when it comes to who is chosen and selected to be pushed purposefully. You know, I guarantee you, YouTube isn't picking out fresh and fit to be put at the front end of anything. You know, everything they got, they had to get through their own hard work. Guys like that in the Red Pill or Manosphere, you know, guys like Kevin Samuels, they had to really work to put themselves into the front page and the focus of YouTube amongst creators because of the algorithm and how people are incentivized to only talk about certain subjects and censor themselves. I worry, I really do, because I feel like we're being herded slowly into being shaped in the way they want us to be as far as how we communicate with each other. Right now, it's not too bad, But again, it's only getting worse and worse. And like I always say, I'm old enough to remember when slippery slope was considered a logical or debate fallacy, and now we know that it's not. Now we know, we all look like, oh yeah, slippery slope, that shit is real. Last one, Hugenex says, I remember explaining to my mom why I'm pro legalizing prostitution. And then Mortal Blunt says, I remember it involved a lot of explaining how much bail and lawyers cost. Hey, look, good on you. Good on you, man. I think one of the conversations I had with my mom was probably like the whole single mother thing. That was, and you know what? Looking back, I feel kind of bad about it because I hate to say it, but basically what I did was bully my mom into admitting that it would be a bad idea for me to, date a single mom. And I think when I tried to force that out of her, I didn't take into consideration that my mom was a single mom and is a single mom and shit like that. I feel kind of bad about it now. But still, I think it's just an example of, that's something that I talk about and I stand on that shit. I'll talk about it with my family and have that conversation. Like, I don't think it's a good idea for young men to date and deal with single moms. Even with one of my friends, he dated a single mom and, I was always in his ear saying, nah, that ain't the way. So it's just like, do you just talk about certain things online or do you stand on it in real life? And that's up to you. That's up to you. I'm not going to sit here and hold people to that standard. But the whole point of the video was just that, I'm not going to be bothered by somebody that's not going to even, bring that type of energy to reality, where shit really matters. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video and I will see you on the next. So, Johnny.